and milk, Porsche and Le Mans. Some things just go together. The German car manufacturer has quite the history at this French track. Countless overall and class victories have been racked up over a century of the famed 24-hour race. And while today won't be nearly as long of an event, the prestige to win here will be just as powerful. We'll see who gets to claim the top step of the podium as we get ready to watch round 5 of the Racing Edge Esports Championship. You'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Samuel Ryman and Peter Mackay. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Le Mans leads little introduction to most race fans, but even still, I'm sure no one will turn down a chance to take a look around once more as we ride on board with Daniel Morad.
Hey guys, I'm Daniel Morad, I'm a professional race car driver, and this is your Racing Edge track guide at Le Mans. We go through the 4 chicanes to start the lap, crossing the start-finish line now, heading down the historic front straight here at the Le Mans circuit, which is host to the Le Mans 24-hour race. Going through the Dunlop curve, you want to use all the track on the entry, and as soon as you get the car straight, on the brake pedal into the Dunlop chicane, using all the curb on the left and right side of the track. You have to watch the corner exit not to get a slowdown penalty using too much of the exit of the road. Going through the S's now. Very important to get on power early. Use all the camber in the road. And now we head through onto the Mulsanne straight. Slight tap of the brake pedal and try to get the power as early as possible, as this is going to be one of the major overtaking opportunities on the circuit. You want to try to position the car down the center of the road. The reason for that is there's a bit of a crown. We're on a public road at the moment, which is closed off for this race. You want to limit the airflow under the car to reduce the drag. Going to the first chicane, we're looking for the brake marker on the left-hand side of the track. We want to brake just before the 100-meter board, hard on the brakes, down to second gear, use all the curb on the right, on the left, and try to open your hands up as quickly as possible to maximize your exit speed as we head back onto the Mulsanne straight after the first chicane. Again, positioning my car down the center of the track, trying to maximize my top speed. Going into the second chicane now, we're going to be looking on the right-hand side of the track for our brake markers. We drift over, look for the 100-meter board, and we're going to be on the brakes just before the 100-meter board. Again, down to second gear, use all the curb on the left. On the right, open your hands up. You need to be careful not to use too much of the curb on the exit because it does have a little bit of a dip on the inside edge of the curb. Back on the straight. Again, public roads. There's a big crown. You can't see it, but there is one there. You want to limit the airflow. Drift over to the left-hand side of the track. Watch out for the cone into the Mulsanne corner. Try to maximize your braking. Straight line braking down to first gear. And you can use all the road, right to the gravel, right to the edge. Try to maximize that exit speed. Now we have the long run down to Indianapolis. Again, we'll go to top speed, try to take the shortest distance around on the run down to Indianapolis. Very famous section of the track and very tricky and high speed. You want to position the car on the left-hand side of the track. A slight dab of the brake just on the entry curb, back to power, and then hard on the brakes, down to second gear. Try to use all the curb on the inside and maximize your exit. Now into Arnage. This is the slowest corner on the track. We're braking at around 75 meters before the corner. Hard on the power now as we head over to the Porsche curves. Also a very, very fast section of the circuit. We want to try to maximize our speed and take the shortest distance on the run down to the Porsche curves in our Porsche 911 RSR. You have the curbs on the left-hand side of the track, slight dab of the brake, down to fifth gear. You want to get onto the curb, mid-track. As we turn in for the Porsche curves, watch out for the exit wall. Fifth gear, down to fourth as we enter into the final section. It's important to keep the car really, really tight onto the right side of the track. Car tends to wash. You have to watch for the understeer as we exit and head down towards the Ford chicanes. This is the final section of the track. Pit entry is on the right side. You want to maximize your entry. Use a little bit of that pit entry. All the curb on the right. Left, right, down to second gear. Use all the curb. Pogo stick. As the Freedom Man says, and we make the run to the line, and that is one lap around the Le Mans circuit.
You see from what the driver's perspective it is like around here, but let's get a little bit of an overview. Sam, why don't you tell us some of the details about this famous track?
Yeah, well, as you saw in our lap guide, and as you can see on the track map here, there are some super long straights making up this 8.5 mile, 13.5 kilometer racetrack. 33 turns, not that many of them though, in these high downforce cars that you have to worry about too much. Obviously, some of the corners that you do have to worry about, the curves and the chicanes, are very historic around here. And honestly, I think, Joe, we're going to see a lot of drafting battles out here today. Two classes, so of course we get to watch two different races. And the nice news compared to a couple of races that we've had recently is uh, we won't have to deal with lap traffic a whole lot because of the length of this circuit.
Yeah, hopefully that should alleviate that somewhat, as it certainly was a source of ire and has affected the championship somewhat. Peter, I believe you have the update on the GTE class here to start.
I do indeed, and it had a big shuffle last week out at Road Atlanta with Alex Simonic having his third win in a row, sitting with 77 points. But Kitten Bin, who's had a good season so far, not far behind at all, with 16 points behind the leader, Alex Simonic. 32 points back is the GOAT, Giuliano Romagnuolo. In fourth is the Scotsman, Alexander Davidson, just 35 points back. So a good race for him back at Road Atlanta as well. And fifth is Keelan Pipers, just 39 points back in our RSR GTE class.
And we also have a slower class here, which is still as competitive, the GT4. Sam, how's that looking?
Yeah, well, Andrew Warren has a 14-point lead, which was not insurmountable by Michael Morley in second place in the standings. I would say Michael Brimhead and Sam Fellows are also in the fight for the championship right now, kind of a four-way fight. But Andrew Warren, he missed the opening round of the season, and he has gone on to win from pole at the three races since then. I don't know what his pace is here at Le Mans, I'll admit, though, because he only did 2 laps during practice.
So a bit of a question mark there, but one thing that we do know for sure is the race details. So let's go over those. We are, of course, in round 5 out of 8 official races, and then they've got a ninth race where it's essentially sort of like the top 10 get a chance to fight for all the money at the end of the season. They also only have a 40-minute race here today, so not too many laps around this track that they'll be able to complete. There's the two different types of cars that you can choose from, one in each class. And there are caches in store for the podium finishers here today. So certainly not just the pride of winning at Le Mans that you are fighting for out on the track. They have a spare car if they get into trouble. Hopefully we won't have too many people that have to resort to that around here, especially if you need a tow. It can take a long time to sit and wait. Speaking of sitting and waiting, we're just now getting the first of our lap times in qualifying. They still get 2 laps here in the qualifying, as they always have, and they're just finishing the first of them. It just takes so long to get those down. I'm watching Alex Ellis here on screen. See what the Canadian can do as he comes up to the final chicane, the forward chicane here. Number 34 has been quick, but hasn't always been able to get the results he wanted this season as he crosses the line, a 3:49.7. So on the GTE cars, that's going to be good enough to put him into second for now. Only 3 drivers have managed to put a time in that fastest class.
Yeah, well, one nice thing what they're doing about what they do in qualifying here, Joe, is the cars get to basically do their outlap from the Porsche curves, which is only about a minute up the road from the start-finish line, if that. So if they do get into any kind of incident, they can quickly reset their car and get back out there on the hot lap. However, you don't want to be getting into an incident now because Already we're hitting the time where you would only have time for one more hot lap. I can tell you, Andrew Warren, our GT4 points leader, he has crashed, I believe, on both of his attempts. So he will have to be starting from the back of a GT4 field.
It's going to make it a lot harder for him to try and take another victory. So, some hope for his rivals there and trying to make some inroads on that decent gap he's built up. Now, if you like this racing and have been wanting to try and get a handle on it in real life, if you want to put your racing skills to the test on the track, visit racingedge.com and check out the latest listings for race cars and classic cars. From super quick McLarens to vintage Ferraris, racingedge.com will cater for your needs. Want to learn more about how to get into motor racing? Visit racingedge.com/media for more. There's Steinhausen coming out of the last corner. He looks a little slow, though. Not sure what that is about on his qualifying. That current lap being a 48 does not seem to be correct. So something must have happened there for the Canadian as he comes to a halt. One thing I wonder about, Peter, here today is the slowdown penalties. I've seen so many times that affected races, and drivers who get abusive with the track limits, I guess, are not, they have more to worry about than the incident limit here.
Yes, you're absolutely spot on there, Joe. I'll be honest, it's Le Mans and Spa to me are the two tracks with the harshest race stewards for track limits, let's just say, here on the iRacing service. And Le Mans particularly is very, very strict. If you don't even have to take that much of a liberty in certain corners, and you will be hit with not only an incident point, but a lot of the time a slowdown penalty. One of the most punishing places is coming out of Tete Rouge, which is that fast right-hander heading on to the beginning of the Mulsanne Straight. And not only does the slowdown penalty really hamper you there, the rest of the field will all be flying past you on full throttle, so it can really, really hurt you. So yeah, that's something we're going to have to watch. And of course, that is very much relevant here in qualifying with only 2 laps. You really it's a strange qualifying mentality here at Le Mans, because with only 2 laps, you really actually need to drive relatively safely to make sure you get a time in, because if you push 110% straight away and you go over track limits, that's the whole lap gone. So you've got to be super careful. Just looking on screen here, Juerk Im, this is a newcomer to the series, and just newcomers to the series, and gets to run the number 1 plate, which is always a nice honour. And coming from the Asian region, just about to set his qualifying time here with just 1 minute and 50 seconds left in the session.
3:49.1. That's about 2/10 quicker. That's going to bump him up to 5th. JJ Ross, apparently that second one didn't count. He must have had an off track somewhere along the ways. What about Alex Ellis, who's currently down 10th in class? As things come down to the end of qualifying, hopefully we'll get more drivers across here. Not quicker for the 34 car. He stays in 10th.
And all these cars finishing up laps, Joe, are the cars that have had 2 flawless laps. And we only have a little over a minute left on the clock. Anyone who's ran into difficulty on their laps is going to be even later across the line, if at all. I'm keeping an eye on Sam Fellows right now. Over on the GT4 side, we've got Sydney Nye here, but you see Sam Fellows is a strong championship contender, but he's currently 3rd. Michael Morley skipping across the grass, so obviously that lap won't count. Thomas Cope, let's see what he can do. He's currently 5th, and Sam Fellows is currently 3rd. I expect one, if not both of them, to jump up. Cope goes from 5th to 4th. Fellows goes...
Ooh.
Oh, gets bumped himself. Wow, Sydney Nye. Wow, I wasn't expecting him to be up there.
Yeah, unfortunately, Fellows had an off track, so his lap did not count. See Perez coming across, 30 seconds left, so just the last few are able to trickle in. Phil Schrader as well, getting his last time on the board. I see Stephen Sheriff, maybe the Canadian, will be able to get there in time. No, he looks slow right now, I think. Is he on pace? He's going to be just shy, unfortunately. 6 seconds left, so the 993 didn't quite get around in time. That means our grid is set. Let's go through that starting order. Caden Bin will be on the pole with Alex Simonic starting in second place. Giuliano Romagnolo, P3 for him, is followed by Mark Alguero in fourth. Joe Hook in the fifth position, and Alexander Davidson starts P6. You got Gilhelm Pipers in P7, followed by Nick Rowland to his outside. Tay Kim, who is on probation, unfortunately, is going to be starting ninth, so he'll be in the thick of the pack, and he's got to watch out there. And then looks like, Peter, we've got Alex Ellis rounding out the top 10 of our GTE class.
Starting in the 11th position will be Daniel Morad, who we saw on our track guide there. Alongside him on row 6 will be Aidan Shadbolt. On row 7 we'll see Reggie Robertson in the 014 and Carlos Cantu in the 18 car. And rounding out our GTE runners will be James JJ Ross. And how are the GT4s looking, Sam?
Well, we have 19 GT4s, and Michael Broomhead will be rolling off first of them, his first pole of the season, ahead of Michael Morley and Sydney Nye, who has not qualified any better than 6th this season until today, and there he goes starting third. Sam Fellows will start from 4th place ahead of Thomas Cope, who's actually having a little bit of connection issues on my screen right now. And then we have 2 new names to the series, Thomas Manning and Damien Van Morik, starting 6th and 7th in class ahead of Stephen Sheriff and Michael Ogren. Adolfo Perez, Phil Schrader, Charles Bochel, Tom Bindelos, Christopher Bailey and Brian Zinn round out the drivers who did not set times, who did set times in GT4. However, the headline, Joe, is right there. The driver who did not set a time, Andrew Warren, the points leader in GT4, is going to have to start from the back with only Jeremy Steinhausen, Phil Beans and Wayne Rayner behind him.
So a number of quick drivers that are unfortunately going to be on the back foot here as they now take off on a partial pace lap just before the Porsche curves they get going and then work their way through. Again, there are prizes for the podium in both classes. Top 3 are each vying for cash. We tend to see each week that those are very hotly contested to the degree that there have been a little bit of bitter rivalries brewing, and some contact has been made. The stewards have been certainly taking no chances on trying to correct that behavior. And so we've had a few drivers on probation. Ben lost one of those. Ellis, I mentioned Kim. Romagnolo is actually on probation as well, as we take a look at the temperature out on track. 22 degrees Celsius, which is about 71 Fahrenheit on the track surface. Actually relatively cool here, Peter.
Yes, that's just going to be perfect for these Michelin tyres fitted to both the 911 RSR and the 718 GT4 Cayman. So perfect conditions for the drivers. However, with such a short pace lap, particularly for the 911 RSR runners in the GTE class, they're going to have to really be quite careful in the opening corners when they get a little bit of temperature in the brakes and the tyres as things progress there as well. But we should see the tricolor flying over the overhead with the red, white and blue showing, and be ready for the start any minute now, Joe.
Yep, Simonic's going to have control there with Ben up at the front. And there is the tricolor heading down the front stretch. Traditional show of the French Air Force. They come through. We now have our Porsche pace car in. Caden Ben, made a little bit of contact just now as the green flag waves with Alex Simonic as they try to go side by side through the Ford chicane. One car spinning in the background, not sure who that is. Looks like JJ Ross potentially. Down into the Dunlop chicane. Let's see if it's going to be safe into this first braking zone. They're mostly single file. Few drivers taking a look as they all accordion together. So far, so good, and I think we're going to get through this part clean. Let's go back to the GT4 start.
Michael Broomhead leading them away. Sydney Nye was he was right on the gas pedal when it started and almost got into the back of Nye, but there he goes, backing out and filtering back into 3rd place, or maybe not, going to come down on the inside. No, Broomhead able to hold off a challenge from behind. They're still side by side for 2nd. Nye getting forced out onto the runoff area, and is going to have to yield 2nd place now. In fact, he's fighting for 3rd with Sam Fellows to his inside in the blue car.
Fellows is going to snatch that 3rd place. And looks like we did get through things okay here in the GT4s. I don't see any cars that seem to have had major incidents. Already, our GTE drivers are on the Mulsanne and braking for the first chicane. Ben leads Simonic with Romagnolo down in third, and newcomer M back there running in fourth.
Yeah, is this a NASCAR race or a sports car race? It's hard to tell with that. It looks like the opening laps of Talladega 500 or the Daytona 500. One big long draft train. So as long as you can stay in the train here, it's all about staying in the train and staying out of trouble in this race. As you'll see on screen, our series promoter, Racing Edge, check them out. They've got some really cool racing cars on their site right now as we head into the second chicane here on the Mulsanne Straight. Before 1990, neither of those chicanes were there, and it was just a full flat-out run down Mulsanne Straight with some cars exceeding 250 miles an hour down the Mulsanne Straight. As we head down here, we'll soon be approaching Mulsanne Corner.
And an update in GT4, Joe. Contact actually for Michael Morley on the straight. Unfortunately, there wasn't a crash there, but he had a slowdown penalty. He just had to serve a slowdown penalty from the first chicane. He had been in second. He's lost a bunch of positions.
And just as our cameras switched over, we're going to ride on board with Fellows. I can update you that we saw Romagnolo lose a couple spots. He fell down to 6th. Let's stay here, though, as we see what Fellows can do with the speed that Morley can do with the speed that he typically has. Right now, this is Manning that he's ducking to the right side of. Car's actually getting up to 150 miles an hour before they break here in a Mulsanne corner. Morley's going to take that easily and gets him back into 6th.
Yeah, and for our GT4 runners, they've got the luxury of there's a few off in the background there. Oh, I'm not quite sure who that was. Oh, there's 3 off in the background at Mulsanne Corner. A very, very easy mistake to make. Just so easy to outbrake yourself and get unstuck there.
Looks like Ben Loss was one of those, I think, that was off.
There's a battle for the lead in GT4. Sidney Nye is going for it as they head down into the Indianapolis on Michael Broomhead. He cleanly goes by the outside, and Sidney Nye, overshoots the corner though, and Broomhead's going to come back at him.
Nye tries to fend him off, coming into Arnage, takes the inside away. Will we see the over-under? It's a long stretch here. Broomhead goes to accelerate, but it doesn't seem to be enough for now. In fact, that allows Sam Fellows to catch both of them. Fellows into third and spying second place. They now stream towards the Porsche curves, and he's going to have the inside potentially. No, they're thinking about 3 wide here as Broomhead going to give another go at Sidney Nye.
Well, Sidney Nye has the least to lose here. He's not really in the championship fight. He's had his best qualifying of the season. He's been a little sketchy at the start of this race, making a couple of mistakes, and that's a big mistake right there. That may have just cost him second place as around goes Fellows.
So Fellows now up to P2, and we've had a problem with Alexander Davidson. I saw him fall down the order. It looks like he's in the pits. I'm going to take the steep assumption that he's had a wreck somewhere in there as we watch now the GT4 leaders complete the first lap.
Yeah, I can confirm that Alex Davidson is sitting in pit lane right now with a very second-hand looking 911 RSR for the Scotsman. He's lost his front bodywork, and the back rear wing is looking very unhealthy indeed. Now, interestingly, it doesn't look like he's taking his iRacing fast repair. So obviously the repairs are relatively light, as we see his car's now looking a bit more back to normal. So he should be able to get back out on circuit, but the chance of a podium finish like at Road Atlanta last week are all gone.
That was a slowdown we saw on screen there for Michael Broomhead and another GT4 driver. So your GT4 leader had to serve a slowdown penalty, and that's put Fellows up into the lead.
I think the other one was Thomas Cope. As we go up to the GTEs, they're swapping around. It's Caden Ben back in front of Simonic, takes it into the second chicane and gets it away. M still clinging to them in third place, and now it is Pipers, the number 17, that has joined the top 4.
Yeah, so this leading 4 group, they're making a good breakaway. Pipers over 4 seconds beyond Daniel Morad, who's leading the second group here. So for Simonic and Ben, they've got to be smart. They've got to work together and get themselves into clean air and basically do the battling later on in the race. They've both got very equal pace. We saw that in qualifying, but we'll just need to see how it emerges over the course of the race. And I have to say, guys, as we see Caden Bin looks to the inside as well, the drafting on these 911 RSRs is incredible. There's such a big effect from that aerodynamic toe, with the car in front punching a huge hole in the air. And of course, as the speeds increase, that draft effect only gets bigger.
Simonic going to slot back in line. Ben is going to take the lead away here into Indianapolis. You were right about that big hole in there, because look at how much M and Pipers have closed in on them. There's nothing between these top four. However, the gap back to fifth is already 5 seconds. That's Roman Yolo back there, leading another train of his own. There you see them coming out of Arnage under the Porsche sign. Roman Yolo's trying to break away with him, and he's got a little bit of a gap here. His best hope may be through the Porsche curves.
Yeah, this is a Canadian Rocky Mountain Railroad train here. You've got Roman Yolo, Morad and Ellis all there in those three different varieties of Racing Edge liveried machine, which all look fantastic, I have to say. Now, last week Daniel Morad had free candy written all over his car. This week it's free baguettes, which is, I have to say, give me the candy any day of the week. As they head through the Porsche curves, very apt indeed. Back to GT4 then.
Yeah, Sydney Nye has gotten right back up on the gearbox of Sam Fellows, so this is for the lead again. Top six are covered within a couple of seconds in GT4 right now, and critically they include all four of our points leaders, including Andrew Warren, who has came from 16th and up into this top six battle, but it is still Fellows leading through, and Nye actually drops back a bit there.
I have to admit, I did not expect Waring to be able to catch up to and hold on to the leaders here. He really is giving himself a shot at the win, as we saw Sheriff go a little wide coming off of Arnage. They're continuing to chase the top three. Morley doing a great job launching off of Arnage, and he is closing in back on Nye and Fellows after losing that front group earlier in this race.
Yeah, well, what I've done on my notes, Joe, is I've actually created a tally after lap one, and I'm going to make a mark next to it each time I see someone have to serve a slowdown penalty, because already three of these drivers in this top six battle have had to serve a slowdown, and I think has kind of helped with Warren's charge through the field a bit.
Certainly couldn't hurt, as we ride on board with Sheriff looking back at Broomhead and Waring. Saw a little bit of a peek into the Porsche curves from Broomhead. Oh, and now we might have an attack down into the Ford chicane as Waring is looking left and right on that purple and white machine, but nothing doing. Now as they slam on the brakes.
I have to say, Joe, it's an incredible performance so far for Waring to get through so much traffic in the GT4 field and to make his way up. He must have played the draft absolutely perfectly in the opening lap and driven really impressive. But he's still, now comes the hard work, trying to fight his way to the front of, let's just say, the fast group, for lack of a better description, because but so far he has been the class of this GT4 pack in this season. Okay, so we're going to have a look at, oh, we got it, that's Daniel Morad off in the sand there at the second chicane on the Mulsanne straight, but he'll get a slowdown penalty for that. Let's see a replay then.
Watch the replay. Did he outbrake himself? He looks to be in a side-by-side battle. Did he get any help? No, he was to the inside and just slid it through the gravel, took the off track and decided to suck it up. That lost him the touch to Ellis and Roman Yolo, who continue to fight for P5 in front of him. In fact, now he's having to deal with both Kim and Roland, who are behind him.
Yeah, it looked like he almost had to back out a bit slightly there. He was side by side with Ellis and maybe just felt like that was the safest thing to do rather than getting a tangle this early in the race. He's got time to make his way back up. So we're going to look over to the lead now with Caden Bin and Simonic. This battle really hopping up. And look at this now. They have broken away. They've snapped that lead group in two. So it's Bin and Simonic head to head. To be honest, guys, this has been ever since Simonic came into the series and Bin came into the series, this battle has just been brewing. But we've not seen them having a real side-by-side battle like we saw with Bin and Verone in round one at Daytona. So I have to say, this is going to go right to the wire, I'm sure of it.
And we saw a little bit behind them flashes of the battle between him and Pipers for third. So it's really two pairs with intense fighting going on here at the top of the field. They swing it through bridge. This is one of the narrower parts of this circuit. Can certainly be treacherous as they come to complete the lap. And already, even though we are on lap 3, we are more than 12 minutes through this race. We're a fourth of the way through this thing.
That's LeMans.
Yeah, my math is very rough at this point, but I'm anticipating about an 11-lap race for the GTE field and a 9-lap race for the GT4 field. So that's why I think these drivers are being a bit aggressive, Drew, because these laps will go by in a hurry if the drivers aren't too careful. We'll take a look back at the GT4 field here. Again, it's kind of a 6-car breakaway with Sam Fellows, Michael Morley, Sydney Nye. Michael Broomhead is back up in 4th place. Andrew Warren in 5th. And Stephen Sheriff had a slowdown penalty at the start of lap, so he drops to 6th.
Starting to look like they're shaking Broomhead, though. That black car that you see third in line, that's Sydney Nye. He's got about 1.8 seconds up to Sydney Nye to try and catch up as they go through Indianapolis one more time. Wonder how many of these drivers are sitting and waiting patiently. Guys like Morley. Is he just going to sit behind Fellows until it gets late in the race to try and do something? Will we see Sydney Nye do the same? No attempts this time through Indianapolis and Arnage. They stay in the same order as well between Broomhead, Warren, and Sheriff back there in 4th, 5th, and 6th.
Sydney Nye looks to be a little bit later on the brakes than his competitors, and I think that hurts him a little bit. You know, the fastest drivers normally follow the philosophy of in like a lamb, out like a lion. I'm not entirely sure that's Sydney Nye's philosophy out here. That being said, obviously he's sticking with the leaders, which was something I'm sure I couldn't do if I was in that car. Fellows goes wide, and here we go, challenge for position. Michael Morley, who had to slow down right at the start of a race. Oh boy, Sam Fellows almost closed the door that Morley had filled there, but he didn't, and there wasn't contact, and Fellows holds on to the lead for now. But as those two battle, I think that those drivers in 4th and 5th are catching up a bit, Joe.
Yeah, that little bit of battling is certainly going to help them back there in 4th, 5th, and 6th. And you saw on your screen, if you want to follow any of the action for cars that you don't see on screen, head over to GSRC.tv. We've got live timing and scoring for every car out on track so that you can see all the action even when it isn't on your monitor. Meanwhile, as we hop on board Broomhead, looking at Warren behind. Ooh, great exit there coming off the chicane.
Yeah, and we didn't.
Sam, on you go.
Yeah, sorry, Peter. We didn't see it from this view, but on the contrary, Sydney Nye did a very poor exit from the chicane because, again, he was way too late on the brakes, went in too hot, got a bad exit, and now when we get an exterior shot here, you'll see Broomhead is right on the back of Nye for 3rd place. Peter.
Okay, we're going to the front of the field. Whoa, that's our newcomer. That's our... Oh, no, it's not. Sorry, that's Gillen Pipers. He's got a new livery this week, which has caught me out there. Oh, dearie me. I wonder what happened there. Coming into, I think that was Mulsanne or Arnage. No, it was out of Indianapolis, heading down towards Arnage, the right-hander. And, oh, dearie me. Looks like, it looked like Pipers might have moved across, but that might have been him already getting a bit of a shove from behind there from him. So, oh, well, if anything's to go by, I'm sure we'll hear plenty about that later on in the race. Now, I have to say, guys, it's brilliant seeing these little 718 GT4s out there on track. Of course, it's not a car we're used to seeing at Le Mans. We certainly don't see it in the real world, but we don't see it a great deal in the sim either. However, this car, the 718 GT4, as we look at...
We've had something happen to Broomhead. We've got to get a replay here.
Yeah, we've jumped to Broomhead here. Watch this replay. He tangles with the car on the straight. We'll get another view of it here. Joe, this is a miraculous recovery.
So, big contact between them. Does he actually touch the wall a little bit? Oh, that's going to be some damage on the car.
Andrew Warren. Andrew Warren gave him a big help there. That's that's going to have to get looked at after the race. It'd be interesting to see it from Andrew Waring's perspective, but seemed a little bit unnecessary contact to me. But I have to say with this, it would be great to see these 718 GT4s running at Le Mans in the real world. Would be fantastic, because actually the 718 launched right back in 1958, and actually the 718, the original 718, had 3 wins at Le Mans, which is as many as the 962 Group C car. So although we might not think of the 718 as a car for Le Mans in its original guise back in the 50s, it certainly was.
And the top 3 are battling hard again for the GT4 lead, with fellows top 4 rather, holding on ahead of Morley, ahead of Warren, and Warren runs wide there. Yeah, I apologize. I guess I must have had some kind of glitch on my computer when Broomhead hit the wall. I thought he had gotten off easier than that, but obviously that wasn't the case.
Looks like Steven Sheriff had a bad run coming off of Arnage. He starts to lose touch, which is bad news for him. The top 4 could have a breakaway. That's Nye, Warren, Morley, and Fellows. Curious to see what the stewards are going to have to say about Warren's contact there, considering he is in the hunt for the championship. If he finds himself getting in probation or losing points, or even potentially with a suspension, as some drivers have had, that'll hurt his chances here despite his speed. Up at the top, that is Fellows still leading the way, with Morley chasing in second. Warren is in third. Sidney Nye in P4.
Yeah, Fellows driving a superb race in his blue and white Pfaff Porsche machine. Of course, Pfaff, a real powerhouse in Canadian racing, and also Porsche retail in Canada as well. As we head through the final chicane, a really, really tricky corner to get right, just trying to get that good exit out towards the Dunlop curve and the Dunlop chicane. And in fact, Dunlop chicane was not always there. It was actually installed in 1987 to try to slow the cars down. And you can imagine without that there, the speeds that they were doing heading through to Tetra Rouge. And I have to say, there is just nowhere like Le Mans. It's just the most amazing layout of circuit, combining permanent racetrack with public roads.
Very close moment there between Morley and Fellows down into that Dunlop chicane. So not sure if they made contact, but it was very, very close between them. A little bit offline from Morley coming through the Forest S's. Does Warren try and take it here? Does he wait for the slipstream on the Mulsanne?
Looks like he's going to wait for that slipstream, but so it took 4 laps for Andrew Warren to get up front. And even though Broomhead sits third in the point center in this race, I think these are your 3 championship contenders in the long run here. And they run 1, 2, 3 despite quite a chaotic opening 4 laps of this race. And here we go, side by side for second place. Not a massive run by Warren though, and I'm not quite sure this is going to work unless he gets on the brakes a little bit later. Yeah, not going to work there. Morley holds on to second.
Tried to take a glance there to see if there was any damage on Warren's car, but I didn't see any from the camera angles that we were getting.
He could just be carrying more wind. I mean, these are open setups, if I'm correct.
Yes, it is, and that's a good point. As we now ride on board the gearbox here of Morley, looking back at Warren, but I don't know that Warren's going to make the move. Yes, he is, as he's got a defense from Michael Morley down to the second chicane, side by side, covers off the inside. That's going to fend him off, at least for the time being.
I wonder if Andrew Warren actually put a lot of wind in his car when he realized he'd be starting at the back. Like, oh, well, I've got to use downforce to make moves. You know, I'll be able to make moves on the straight by using the slipstream. And now he finds himself up front and he's probably thinking, man, I wish I hadn't put that much wind on his car. That's just a theory. I've got nothing to prove it. But whatever the case, he's fighting hard, I'm sure. And of course, Sidney Nye is still there in 4th place. We'll see what he has to say about all this. Oh, as Fellows goes wide.
He must have a very big hammer, because we are getting information that it is a fixed set. So I don't think he's been able to change that wing like we first assumed. Warren is going to give it another shot as they start to pick up speed. Morley's going to be covered in. Are they going to go 3 wide? They are going to try and go 3 wide. It's narrow streets here, public roads that they are using. It's hard to do that. They finally think better of that as Warren backs off. The top 2 battling it out for the lead. Fellows to the inside, Morley to the outside. He's almost fully ahead, but as they break, they're going to come back together. Coming through Indianapolis, a little bit wide off into the gravel for Morley. This gives another shot to Waring, but once again, he's not willing to risk it at this point in the race. As they come out of Arnage, it's finally done, and Morley takes the lead away from Fellows.
Brilliant stuff from our GT4 runners here, I have to say. And I think actually, guys, I saw a little bit of bump drafting there going down the Mulsanne straight, which is pretty cool. But the thing to be aware of with these GT4 cars is they are quite underpowered, relatively speaking, compared to their weight. It's hard to say that a car with 425 horsepower is underpowered, but relative to the weight it is, they do weigh about 1,340 kilos, these cars. So you've got to be so precise. And I think to Sam's point about the exit out of the chicanes on the Mulsanne straight, that exit and that momentum in these chicanes is vital. And of course, as we're seeing these drivers trade a little bit of paint and swapping places, that is so easy to lose momentum. So I think it's in these GT4 cars, at least, it's all about the momentum. And actually, they don't have as much of a draft effect as the GTE runners do.
Man, just poking his nose everywhere. Sam Fellows is trying desperately to get back up to the front past Morley. I'm surprised the two behind them haven't been able to take advantage of that. Warren and Nye have been just kind of sitting and watching. They complete another lap here, on to lap 6. We're now past halfway of this race, though.
I think Waring looks very comfortable there, guys, I think. And just one mention back on that little bit of contact on the Mulsanne straight for Waring. Waring's record so far in terms of discipline in this championship has been immaculate so far. So that will be taken into account when the stewards look at it. As he goes round the outside, coming over the Dunlop Bridge, makes the move, sticks heading towards Tetra Rouge. Great move from Andrew Waring, but he's got to get a move on to try and get in the draft of Michael Morley, who's really got to try and escape from this pack and break away.
So they get back onto the Mulsanne one more time. I can tell you that we haven't missed much. Ben and Simonic have continued to pull away from him up at the front of the GTE class. They are basically almost working together. Oh, they had a bit of a scary moment, though, with the lap traffic. They're catching the back of the GT4s. Thomas Cope held both of them up significantly there through the first chicane.
Yeah, that's where I'm surprised actually that they're coming up to the lap traffic already. But here we are, and Caden Bin gets it at the perfect point and gets the pick on Simonic with that Cayman in the middle of the two of them, and that's given him a vital bit of breathing space there as well. That was, I have to say, that Cayman looking brilliant in the Wright Motorsport livery. Of course, the team that Pat Long, a double Le Mans winner with Porsche, races for the Wright Motorsport team. So this is when it's get really spicy for by the end of the race. They're going to come.
We got to go to the GT4 lead because a lot of things are happening down there. Oh my goodness, Waring, Morley are the only two able to continue on. Nye has a cut course penalty, and Sam Fellows finds himself turned around.
Yeah, Warren was looking for the lead here, and then third and fourth just come in, make it about 4 wide. And as you mentioned, Fellows basically spun himself trying to keep off of Warren, a slowdown penalty for Nye, and then there were 2. So Andrew Warren takes the lead, and Michael Morley also escapes into second place. And that's not over, because those two are still side by side for the lead.
Just wild stuff. Sheriff now moves into 4th because of that, and Waring is side by side with Morley, as Sam mentioned. This is for P1 up at the top of the GT4 cars. Morley's going to have the inside once they get to the kink here at Indianapolis, but it's going to be the outside of the proper left-hander. Is that going to be enough for Waring to try and take it away down to that heavy braking zone? He starts to lose the overlap, and he pulls back in behind him.
I have to say, I wonder if there was contact there between Nye and Fellows. It looked like Fellows really, if there wasn't any contact, he'd outbraked himself quite significantly, which isn't like Sam Fellows with his level of ability. So I would be really interested to see if Sidney Nye perhaps maybe gave a little bit of a shove to Fellows while they were in the braking zone. Could not be, but it's a possibility at least. But what a pity for Fellows, because he was running a really strong race, but a dream scenario for Waring and Morley.
Be a stunner if Warren manages to go from the back of the pack to win it, and he's going to take the lead away from Morley this time into the Porsche curves. Outbreaks his rival as they go through these set of S's now. He's got the lead, but can he hold on to it is the big question, because this has just been back and forth all race long.
And but Warren's not the only driver to have pulled something like this off. All that drama moved Jeremy Steinhausen up into 5th in the GT4 class, and that's a whale of a battle going on there, because they have the GTE leaders trying to come through right now. As a matter of fact, I think we need to take a look at that, Drew, because they're all getting bogged down, flashing their headlights.
Ooh, they're being held up significantly. Steinhausen, who unfortunately goes offline, allows Broomhead back through. So Michael is going to get back into 6th.
Yeah, so did Simonik make a move for the lead through all that traffic right there? Because there he is,
Yes,
ahead of Bean. Yeah.
Yeah, he has. Caden Bin was leading onto the Mulsanne straight on this lap, so Simonic's made the move somewhere, maybe in the draft, but maybe more likely through traffic. So this is really heating up now. 13 minutes to go, just over. It'll actually be 4 laps to go for our GTE runners here, so still plenty of time actually here at Le Mans for these two drivers. But it's going to be another race going right to the wire for Caden Bin. Of course, we remember a few weeks ago at Daytona's Bin. God, he really
Roman Yolo.
that would be.
Sorry, Roman Yolo's had a
Sorry, go on,
big
Joe.
moment. He seems to have been taken off by, I think, lap traffic, and this was actually with Broomhead. And unfortunately, he slid back into the track. Here on the replay, you can see he comes to a halt, and that car that hit him, I think, is Piper's in his own class. So severe damage for the 17 from that one as well.
Well, highly unfortunate for Broomhead there, because he just came off of a 2nd place finish at Road Atlanta that moved him up to 3rd in the points. He started pole, and now he's been turned around twice this race. So when it rains, it pours for Broomhead. Things were looking great, and now they're not.
Number of drivers that find themselves disadvantaged by that big incident down in the Dunlop chicane, as we once again look at Simonik and Ben, and that looked like a little bit of a nudge, a hurry up from the number 23. More traffic in front of them. This time, Stephen Sheriff. They're getting closer to our leaders in the GT4s.
Yeah, they'll be glad that the leading GT4 pack has at least been broken up a little bit, because that would have been a real traffic jam to get through. Just very quick update on Alexander Davidson. It turns out that his monitor in his sim rig fell off its mountings, I understand, which of course is not going to be ideal for your chances. We see Caden Bin. He's going to have a look down into Mulsanne. That is a classic Le Mans move. Hard on the brakes, down the gearbox, and makes it stick. So now he can control the flow through the traffic. So is he going to get blocked in here? He'll need to be careful with that drafting. Oh, he just about gets it past. Now, if you're the leader here, you come across the traffic first, but you can strategically try to block the car behind you in the slower GT4 runners. But that's as past the GT4 runners now, so that shouldn't be an effect at all now. So this should be a clean run to the finish for these two GTE leaders.
Hopefully, we could still come across some slower GT4s. They are very mixed up throughout the field. Actually, I need to look and see. Yeah, okay, I think you might be right, because I don't see too many GT4s anywhere close to them up in front. Out of Arnage, Ben is your new leader in the GTE. Simonik in 2nd in that class. They continue to pull away from all behind them. Im is now 12 seconds back, actually.
Yeah, and all that action. Oh, as we see the number 34 car of Alex Ellis having a bit of a twirl there at Arnage. That's maybe just got a little bit out on the brakes. Let's get a look at that on a replay. And oh, dearie me. Looks like he's... so he comes in on the brakes into Arnage. That's him on screen. Second car coming into the corner. Yes, gets it on the brakes, on the curb, and just loses it there, rushing down the gearbox. And oh, all the other drivers doing very well to avoid contact there.
He's awful lucky that everybody was very heads up coming out of that 90-degree corner. Meanwhile, our GTE leaders are crossing the line now, just shy of 4 minutes per lap. 3 to go from what we can tell. They're still very tight together.
It's impossible to call this GTE race, guys, isn't it? You know, with Ben and Simonic, absolutely nothing to separate them on pace. It's really all going to be about who's going to be the smartest, and any mistake at all, and that's going to decide it.
Back in the GT4s, Zinn, who we haven't talked about a whole lot, has quietly worked his way up to 6, but Broomhead, still attempting to come back into things, is in 7th, and he's not given up on this race.
I have to say, I love that Wins livery there, that purple and orange scheme. Of course, that scheme we're hoping we will see on a Porsche 911 RSR at Le Mans this year with the Ben Keating team. But looks brilliant on the 718 GT4 as our runners come into the Dunlop chicane with 3 laps to go.
Behind them, that's Thomas Manning. That's also for position. So these are all 3 drivers that have impetus to try and make the overtake here as we watch the number 5 continue to chase the number 73. No, he's going to make a mistake in the Forest S's. And I'm starting to hear some chatter from Sam Fellows. I'm trying to see if... No, I guess he's just still riled up about something that happened earlier. So let's head back to the GTE lead. Simonic just behind Ben. They come out of the second chicane along the Mulsanne, down towards Mulsanne corner. They are free to battle amongst themselves for the remainder of this race. There'll be 2 to go at the line. And I have to ask you, Peter, do you want to be the car ahead or behind when you get that white flag?
Oh, good point. You put me on the spot there, Joe. I have to say that's why I'm up here behind the microphone and not behind the steering wheel like these 2 fine gentlemen. It's so hard to tell. There's a lot of different ways. There's lots of passing opportunities. You could pass it the first chicane, the second, Mulsanne, Indianapolis, Arnage. I think that's what makes Le Mans so special. And of course, with it, normally we see it in the real world with a 24-hour race, so there's not usually a battle like this, but certainly in the early stages of the race, the GT battle can just roll on for hours and hours and hours, and that's what makes Le Mans such a unique viewing experience. And of course, seeing 2 Porsche 911 RSRs dice it out, this reminds me of 2018 between the Rothmans throwback liveried car and the Pink Pig, with Kevin Estra and Jimmy Bruni battling it out, and basically 2 Porsches out on their own with the rest of the field floundering behind. But this is just this might look easy on screen, folks, but I must urge you to go and try these cars on this circuit. The level of skill we're seeing from Alex Simonic and Caden Bin is nothing short of extraordinary as we head to the Porsche curves, and Simonic is really close here, guys. Not really, it's all one line here though through the Porsche curves, so he might try to pick Ben's pocket at the final chicane, but that would be a bold move.
Yeah, it's a quick entry, even though it's a double chicane. So as they come out of karting here, let's see if he gets the launch he needs. That car looks a little slidey. Simonic not quite with the exit that he wants. So the 23 is going to be safe as they come up to the braking zone.
Nye is off. Sydney Nye from 3rd place in GT4. He's in the gravel. Not really sure what's happened here.
I'm going back and checking myself. We got the replay up. I think maybe this is a hardware problem or something. Well, that's unfortunate to see him just go off mysteriously, and then his car started blinking, so maybe he was getting the unfortunate Q-bar issues here at iRacing that sends him down to 7th position within his class, and now promotes Sheriff up to P3. He's in a cash-paying position now.
Yeah, Sheriff's had
Sorry, go on, Sam.
He's had a respectable season, and he's qualified on the top 3 rows in 3 other races so far. He has a 6th place finish, a 4th place finish. Today, everything coming together quite well for him. But even though Sheriff looks fairly solid for 3rd place, I want to keep an eye for the battle for the win in GT4 in the last couple of laps, Joe. Even though it's 1.5 seconds between Warren and Morley right now, Morley has been closing that gap.
So Warren certainly got a hustle here. because we're going to be getting the white flag next time by as they come down through the Forest S's up to that critical corner exit of Tertre Rouge. There is the lap comparison. Morley caught up last time, and then it looks like lap 5 he was a little bit quicker. And then lap 6 is where he dropped that 1.5 seconds.
Yeah, I think the big difference here, Joe, is this is the first time Warren's finally been out front without being in a battle. But speaking of a battle, things are quite different on the GT side.
Yeah, this has been in Simonic, still fighting for the front, Peter.
Yeah, this is getting very spicy indeed, but also this is the battle for the win, but the battle for the final step on the podium is not done by any stretch of the imagination. Im and Morad battling away. Morad just over a second, but that's well within draft range for the Canadian in the number 70 machine, and that would be the first podium of the season for either of those drivers. And of course for Im, it would be a podium on his first time out in this highly competitive Racing Edge series as they head down into Mulsanne corner. That third place spot is far from secure for Im, and well, up front in the battle for first, well, you can flip a coin. It's impossible to tell.
Well, who's got their money on who here? Because as they swing it through Indianapolis, they are both hustling these cars, neither one giving an inch, even though they know it is a draft race. Out of Arnage one more time. That gap back to Im still 16.8 seconds. This is astonishing speed out of our top two. They come up towards the Porsche curves. The 250 been hounding the 23 all race long. Doesn't take a look coming into this set of S's. It's going to stay behind for the time being.
You have to think, guys, that Dakota Fripp, who of course joined us for the first time last time and was banned straight away for one race, you've got to think he would have been up here and actually would have been a very strong ally. Of course, runs for the same team as Simonic, but for Caden Bin, that's been good news that he's been able to have a straight fight with Simonic. Also, Nico Verone was banned for the previous race and hasn't returned for this one, so I'm not sure if we'll see him again in the Racing Edge series, but thank goodness we got Bin and Simonic, because this has just been an absolute masterclass of motorsport. Oh, Simonic very wide indeed into the gravel. I don't think he'll get a slowdown penalty for that, but that is certainly going to hamper him for sure, and that's given a couple of car lengths gap. And look at that, fastest lap of the race for Caden Bin as we take the white flag. Excellent stuff from the 15-year-old.
I said they were pushing, and there you go, right there. So, one final lap to try and determine our winner here in round 5. So, who is going to have it? Simonic trying to catch back up. Half a second. Shouldn't be dire. Should allow him to get the draft here along the Mulsanne and get back into things. The gap as they start to pick up speed, 0.683. Let's watch and see if it goes down.
That mistake for Simonic could be absolutely critical. Certainly when they've been on camera, we have not seen either of these drivers make even a hint of a mistake in this entire 40-minute race so far. But Simonic just about to take the white flag, puts it in the gravel coming out of the final corner. But he's able to close up on Bin. But you've got to think that that's just given Bin that little bit of breathing space that's just going to make this battle a little bit easier. However, this is far from over. Make no mistake that Simonic is still very much in this battle.
Alex managed to cut it down by half just on that first run. It was back up to about 4.5 tenths when they started to accelerate away from the first chicane. It's coming down once again, down to 2 tenths, 1/10 of a second. He doesn't try and attack here. Is he waiting for Mulsanne corner? Is he waiting for something later in the lap? What does he think he's got? And what has Ben going to do in defense? Already, we've had races come to blows for the win here in this series. Of course, Caden probably is aware of some of the penalties that have been handed out by the stewards. He wants to hold on to this one. He knows he's got to fight it fair as they break down into Mulsanne. No move from Simonic this time, Peter.
Yeah, been absolutely perfect under pressure there. That is such a tricky corner. when you've got a car that's not got anti-lock braking system and you're having to be you've got to have so much finesse and you're having to turn the car and slow it down at the same time. That's just a nightmare. But I think this is a great chance for Simonic here as we head down towards Indianapolis and Arnage, where it's a right, left, and then a right again. This is an opportunity, and look, Simonic steps out of the draft. He might have played this absolutely perfectly as he makes a move, but Bin's going to have the inside line heading into Indianapolis. He takes it, Simonic goes very wide, and he's in the gravel as well, and that'll do it, guys. That will do it. If Caden Bin can hold it on from here, that is 2 clear mistakes from Simonic while under pressure, and that has let Caden Bin get away.
Awesome stuff from Caden Bin to withstand that one. He'll be notching up his 2nd victory of the season if he just holds on to it from here on out. We haven't missed anything with Waring. He dropped Morley by about 2 seconds, and Morley's only been able to close it in to 1.5 since then. Just doesn't seem to have the pace. But this man here, the number 23, hailing from the New York club, he is going to take win number 2 as he comes out of karting. The gap up to 1.7 seconds over Simonic. Played it to perfection here. Started it on the pole. Withstood all the pressure. Fended off all comers. And as he comes out of the Ford chicane, Caden Bin is going to win here today in France.
Super classy win there from Caden Bin. Did not put a foot wrong and thoroughly deserved that big bag of points, and looked like he got fastest lap of the race as well. As we see, looks like Jayhawk Im is going to be able to hold off Daniel Morad to get his first podium of the series in his first race. Fantastic stuff there. 3rd, 4th and 5th all coming over the line. Good finish from Nick Rowland as well in 5th position for the Briton.
And Morad came up from 11th, worth pointing out as well. So quite a climb for him. I talked about Waring and Morley. Did Waring, Sam, make a bit of a mistake? This has suddenly come down dramatically here.
Yeah, it has. I don't know if Warren's made a mistake or if he's just taken it a little bit easy. It might be a little bit too easy, though, because as you mentioned, Morley is not necessarily within striking range, but maybe within dive bomb range, and that's something that could definitely happen when you're battling for the win at Le Mans, going down into the Ford chicane. First, they've got to get through the Porsche curve, so Michael Morley, let's see if he's able to get a better line and stick with Andrew Warren a bit better. The rest of the top 10 will probably remain unchanged. They'll give a shout out right now to Thomas Manning in 5th place in his first race. But right now, just 3 turns remain for these top 2 drivers. This is critical for Morley to make this happen, honestly, because Warren's just going to be running away with the championship if he wins this race. But I think Michael Morley would have to do something a little unsportsmanlike if he wants to win it from that far back. He closes up under braking for the first chicane. There's 1 chicane left to go. Maybe he could give him a bit of a chrome horn, but no, he's not going to do that. Andrew Warren wins from 16th on the grid. Morley is going to have to settle for 2nd. Sheriff will be able to get his first podium in 3rd position of the season. Sam Fellows, he's had a bit of a chaotic race. I think they all have. He's going to come home in 4th place. But then, yeah, you come not only to Andrew Warren's incredible story of going from 16th to 1st, but throughout the GT4 field, we have some brilliant stories. Thomas Manning is going to get 5th place in his first race in the series. Brian Zinn, he had issues earlier. He's coming home in 6th position. Thomas Cope ran into a bit of trouble earlier. He'll finish 7th. Sidney Nye has had a few offs. He'll get 8th. Jeremy Steinhausen is going to finish 9th place in class after being, I think he had an off course or something earlier. And Michael Broomhead, who got turned by 2 different cars throughout the race, he'll pick up that final point in 10th in class.
At least it's something. As we head to break here on the Global Sim Racing Channel, we'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. Stick around because on screen you'll see all the upcoming races here on GSRC. Welcome back to Le Mans. We just watched round 5 in the Racing Edge Sim Racing Series, Racing Edge Esports Championship, rather. And up at the front of it, it was Caden Ben taking his second win. Had to fight hard to hold off Alex Simonic. Those two finally had a good duel here, one-on-one. Cahook Imp is our third place finisher on his first time appearing in this series, so he's going to take home a little bit of cash in his pocket. Daniel Morad just behind him in the end, fourth place, climbing up from 11th. He should still be happy, even though he won't have some money from it. Nick Rowland finished in 5th with Alex Ellis in 6th place. You've got Tay Kim finishing P7, followed by Carlos Cantu in 8th. And you've got John Ambrose, who did not qualify, climbed his way up to 9th during the race. And James J.J. Ross rounds out your top 10. Sam?
Andrew Warren started 16th in class, gets his 4th win in the row, though, at the end of the race. Michael Morley hands on to 2nd place, which would be good for his championship chances if he didn't finish behind the points leader, which I'm sure he'll be a little disappointed about. Sheriff, I think, will be quite content with that 3rd place finish ahead of Sam Fellows in 4th and Thomas Manning rounding out the top 5 in class in his first race with the league. Brian Zinn finishes in 6th place ahead of Thomas Cope, Sydney Nye 8th in class, and Jeremy Steinhausen, who finished the 9th in class despite starting 17th, and I believe he had an off in the middle of a race. Who knows where he could have finished had that not happened, and Michael Broomhead down there in 10th. That's going to hurt him a bit in the points. Charles Burchell, Christopher Bailey, Wayne Rayner, Phil Schrader, and Adolfo Perez rounding out the top 15 in the GT4 class, and pretty much after that you get to the drivers who ran into issues today. Joe?
And we've got our winner ready to talk to us. It is Caden Ben. And Caden, it looked like the tone of the race was set even before the green flag fell. What happened there at the start where you had some contact with Simonic? And I think we've got an issue with Caden's mic here. We'll see if he can get that sorted out. Getting a little bit of static, unfortunately, as we... that's that's a little bit scary what we're getting from Caden Ben right now. So we're going to try him a little bit later, it sounds like. In the meantime, we've got Sam talking to our winner in the GT4s.
4th win in a row from Andrew Warren, but Andrew, this won't be my normal interview because I don't think that was your normal race.
No, I definitely didn't do too good in qualifying. Got caught out a couple times by the back end of that car just going on me, and then I was just like all of a sudden I had to realize like, well, I'm starting dead last. That sucks.
Hey, hold on. We've got a close-up on your car on screen here. I think I might have figured out the secret. Who am I speaking to? Am I speaking to Andrew Warren or Charles Leclerc?
That's just a local team I work for, Professional Racers Ontario, and we run the CL card, so I'm representing them this year.
Okie doke. All right. Well, I'll take your word for it. That was Leclerc-ish drive, almost 16th to 1st. However, it wasn't without a little bit of controversy, a bit of contact with Michael Broomhead. Can you talk us through that?
Yeah, I felt like personally I was getting defended on by everybody pretty aggressively, which I don't blame them. The last thing they all want to see is another win from me. But I tried to keep my nose clean, and I kind of went back and watched that replay with Michael, and honestly, I would call it a racing incident. In the heat of the moment, I obviously thought he came over on me, but when you watch the replay, he kind of like got onto that left side of where the road crowns, and I was kind of just the car kind of like goes back and forth in a straight line a little bit, and just a little bit of net code from him being a different side of the country or the world, just kind of created a bad incident. And I feel terrible for him, but we'll let the stewards decide and see what they think.
We'll see indeed. But whatever happened, at the end of the day, you won this race. I don't think they can dispute that too much. And we have 3 races left to go before the cutoff. So we got Silverstone, Barcelona, and Belgium coming up. How many more wins are we going to see you pick up this season?
I really want to win the last 2 so I can move up to the GTE class in that last race and show those guys that this GT4 class isn't pushovers and we're not, worse drivers by any means, because that's what I feel like they all think. So if we can get the W in the next 2 rounds, I'll do the last race in the RSR and stick it to those guys for sure.
Oh, well, we'll look forward to seeing you up there, perhaps. But, a lot of great competition. We'll see if the likes of Fellows and Morley can give you a run for your money next week. Whatever happens, we appreciate you for coming on, putting on a great show today, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, it certainly won't be easy, but yeah, appreciate everything you guys do. I'm sure the broadcast is great. Can't wait to watch it back. Racing Edge, Daniel Morad, all the guys behind the scenes, Ginger, they did a great job running this league and all the competitors. It's been great racing, so let's see it keeps up next week.
All right, that was our race winner in the GT4 class, Joe. That was Andrew Warren, and let's have you try Caden Bean again.
Yeah, we're going to try one more time with the New Yorker. Caden, do we get a copy?
Yeah, is this better?
Yes, no, it's a little less scary than what we were getting before. Congratulations on the victory. I don't know if you heard me before, but I'm curious what your take is on what happened at the start. It looked like there was a little bit of contact between yourself and Alex.
Yeah, before the start, I think I honestly just didn't give him enough room before the green. My fault. I should have been over to the right more, and he just didn't have anywhere to go.
So then later on, obviously, I'm sure you expected it to become something of a draft battle. When it came down to just you two, what's going through your head at that point?
Honestly, I was willing to battle it out until the end once we pulled from everyone else, but it seems like Alex, by the way he was driving, seemed like he wanted to keep pulling a gap until the end, so I just kind of went with it, let him by when he wanted it, and then I'd get him back on the straights. It seemed to work out really well, though, our strategy.
It certainly did. You had a mighty gap up there. You finally managed win number 2 here. Does that give you hopes of being P1 come the end of 8 rounds?
Yeah, I hope so. I just got to get lucky with Alex hopefully having some bad luck. If we're honest, it seems like he's had some really good luck the last few races, so hopefully I can take some of that from him.
All right. Well, some people like to say I'd rather be lucky than good. We'll see if that goes your way. Congratulations, Caden.
Thank you.
That was Caden Bin, our winner there. And then up next, Peter has caught up with the man who finished behind him, Alex Simonic.
Alex Simonic, second place today in an amazing drafting battle at Le Circuit de la Sarthe. Tell us about how the race went for you and how you plotted your way through those 40 minutes.
Basically, I knew that if I qualified like near the top, I'd be fine with draft-wise. And I guess I messed up the first qualifying lap because I just broke way too late into turn 1. So then I got a 0.7 for my second lap. But that really didn't matter because on this track, you can just draft right up to the car behind about a second back. So I knew that as soon as like we hit the green flag, just stay behind Caden and just start drafting away from the other pack because I don't want to be racing 20 cars. I'd rather be racing 1. And turns out I cannot race 1 car because on the last lap, I went into Indy and then I saw the blue lockup lights of death and went off the track. And then I just went through my head saying it's better to get $95 than just $0. So it was a fun race other than that.
It was fun for us up in the commentary booth watching it, and I know exactly how you feel, of course, in the 911 RSR when you hit the brakes and they lock up and you get a big Christmas tree flashing lights at you to tell you that you've locked the brakes up. So clearly you guys were pushing. Is Le Mans a circuit that you relish and enjoy? Of course, it's a spectacle that's so good to watch. But as a driver, is it a circuit that you really enjoy?
I kind of enjoy it. I'm like also not that good at it, but like in the 24-hour, all you're doing is if you're in the car behind, you're just saving fuel the whole time because there's no point battling it out because there is a chance. Well, first off, you're going slower if you're battling, and then you're wasting more fuel. So that means other cars can come up to you, and then you have a greater chance of wrecking. So if you're just falling behind the person in front, it's perfectly normal because if you, how do I say it? If you get past someone, say in the first Mulsanne chicane, they'll just draft right by you. So you're just playing leapfrog the whole time, and overall, it's just going to be slower. So it's basically a draft fest. And then if you're by yourself, you're just pushing and then just saving on entry just to get as much laps as you can.
Fantastic stuff. Well, thank you for the insight. Much appreciated. Now, while you're live on GSRC, is there anyone you'd like to give a thank you or a shout out to while you're live on the broadcast?
Yeah, I'd like to thank Global SimRacing. We're going to be fielding, I think, 2 cars for Spa this weekend, and we're going to have our sponsors SimiCube, Draw Once, and Valco on the car. So happy to have them along with us.
Well, all the very best of luck at Spa, Alex, and hopefully we'll see you again next week.
Up next, we've got our second place finisher in the GT4. Sam Ryman has caught up with Michael Morley.
Yeah. Hi, Michael. When you're fighting for a championship, I've got to imagine a second place finish would be good if it wasn't for the fact that the championship leader is the driver who finished in front of you.
That definitely doesn't help at all. I was definitely aiming for the win, and with Waring qualifying pretty far back there, I thought I had good chances, but he got through that pack really fast, didn't he?
Yeah, he did, but I happened to notice that a few of you, yourself included, I believe, on the first lap, had slowdown penalties early on. Was that the only issue you ran in today? I think you had a slowdown penalty on lap 1.
Yeah, I once I got behind people, I haven't really tested with the draft, so I was pushing really tight for a while. I was kind of getting used to it and making a few mistakes, but that slowdown definitely hurt.
So you had an 8th last week at Road Atlanta because of an incident, but besides that, you finished on the podium every race this season. You're having a great season going. My question to you, I want to ask a question. Is your goal still the championship? And I know the answer is yes. There's no reason you can't get it. But what are your long-term goals? Because we were talking to Warren. He was talking about moving up to GTE for next season. Are those your plans as well? Or are you here for race wins now? Is that the only way you're going to get this title? Or are you still going to race for points?
I think with the way he has the points right now, I need the wins. I can't be going for seconds or even a podium right now. I need to actually get back up on first place, and I want to close out the championship really strong. And yeah, hopefully we can give Waring a run for his money.
Well, we will be looking forward to seeing it. It's been some great racing throughout the season. Unfortunately, you came up a little bit short today, but it was fun to watch, and we wish you best of luck for you next week at Silverstone. Anything you'd like to say before we let you go?
Yeah, I just want to give thanks to you guys at Global SimRacing, and also the guys at Racing Edge Sim Series. They do a great job with the series, and also a shout out to Ginger. He does a great job with directing. So thanks a lot.
Our second place finisher in the GT4s, Michael Morley. And we've got third place with us, Stephen Sheriff. And if you hear jingling, it is not the spurs on the Sheriff. It's the extra change in his pocket. Oh, it looks like Stephen's having trouble hearing us here. So we'll not sure if we're going to be able to talk to him if he's not able to hear us. Stephen, you got a copy?
First interview. Can't figure out how to use Discord.
Oh, looks like we might not be able to get Stephen an interview, sadly, here today. But like he said, it's his first podium. So big congrats to Stephen. Hopefully we'll be able to get his Discord working a little bit later on. Let's give a few thank yous, of course, to our promoter, Racing Edge, before we leave. Make sure and check them out. You can find them very simply at racingedge.com. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcasts that are listed here on your screen in a moment. And additional thanks to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Sean, Sam, Peter, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. You can also check out our social media, with Twitter being at GSR Channel, Facebook, Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram, GSRC_brand. If you'd like to support us, check out our merchandise store at gsrc.storenvy.com. We got a link in the description below. And while you're down there, if you see a red button that says subscribe, click that because you haven't subscribed yet. If you do so, you won't miss a moment here on GSRC. The next race going to be at Silverstone. That'll be Tuesday, July 14th at 7 p.m. Eastern. We have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But stick around because in less than an hour's time, the PRL GTE Sports Car Series will be on the air. However, until next time, race clean, race hard. See you on the track.